The whole plain, which had looked so lovely and bright earlier in the day, with all those puffs of smoke and the bayonets glinting in the morning sunshine, was now shrouded in a cloud of dark, damp mist and smoke, reeking with the strange, pungent smell of saltpeter and blood. One or two dark clouds had come up, and a fine drizzle was sprinkling the dead, the wounded, the fearful, the weary, and the wavering. Good people, that's enough, it seemed to say. Stop and think. What are you doing? The men on both sides, exhausted and in need of food and rest, began to have the same kind of doubts about whether they should go on, slaughtering each other. Hesitation was written on every face, and in every soul the same question asked itself. Why, for whose benefit, should I kill and be killed? Go on, kill all you want, do what you want, I've had enough. By late afternoon, the same thought had dawned on every spirit there. Any minute now, all of these men might suddenly see the horror of what they were doing, pack it in, and run off anywhere. But even though the battle was nearing its end, and the men could sense all the horror of their actions, even though they would have been glad to stop, they were still in the grip of an inexplicable, mysterious force, which kept the surviving gunners, they were down to 1 in 3, running with sweat, filthy with powder and blood, stumbling about and gasping with exhaustion as they went on bringing up charges, loading the guns, taking aim and lighting the fuses, so that the cannonballs, as fast and as vicious as ever, flew across from both sides to splatter human flesh, keeping the whole ghastly business going, not by the will of man, but by the will of the one who governs men and worlds. Anyone looking at the disarrayed rear of the Russian army would have said that with one last push from the French, the Russian army would have been done for. But anyone looking at the rear of the French army would have said that one last push from the Russians would have finished off the French army. Neither French nor Russians mounted that last push, and the flame of battle burnt slowly down. That, my friends, is from War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Yes, War and Peace, your penguin, your Sunday penguin for today. So War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, a little book you might have heard of. So War and Peace, this was written by Count Leo Tolstoy. He was born in 1828. He died in 1910. And this story begins in Russia in 1805. And it's the story of the impact of the Napoleonic era on 5 aristocratic Russian families, basically. It's about a lot more than that, but basically that's what it's about. Famously, this book has a huge cast of characters, but it's mostly just about 2 characters. That would be Pierre Bezukov and his friend Prince Andrei Bolkonsky. Pierre is a young man. He's the illegitimate child of this super rich guy, and he's always thinking about the meaning of life. He kind of searches in this novel for the meaning of life, the meaning of his life, why he's here. He's a very thoughtful young guy, very socially awkward. And through the course of this novel, he changes quite a bit. A lot of things happen to Pierre, and he does. His character changes quite a bit. It's a pretty interesting character arc that he goes through. Now, his friend, Prince Andrei, is a bit of a different character. He is not socially awkward, but he is a little cynical, a little world-weary, I think, but also handsome and intelligent, a little bit remote sometimes, but inside he's a man of deep feeling. So it's mostly about these two characters, mostly. But like I said, there are a lot of characters in this book. And it lasts for several years. Uh, and you get to experience both war and peace. The overall effect of the war on the Russian culture, on the world that these aristocrats are living in, these aristocratic families. It's a heck of a novel. Now, I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant to read this book. Um, Having read it, I'm not sure why. It is a long book. How long is this book? I don't even know. About 1,300 pages, maybe, in this edition. Yeah, 1,350, somewhere around there. So it's a big book, but it's not any bigger than some of those ginormous fantasy novels that Brandon Sanderson's always throwing out. And it's a heck of a lot better, I'm sure. I haven't read any of his books yet, but this book is incredible. And you might say, well, geez, do I want to invest that much time on this big, complicated book with a gazillion characters? Yes, you do. You do, actually. You might not know it, but yeah, you do want to read this book. You really do. First of all, it might be a challenging book in some ways, but it's not that challenging. If you've been a reader for a while, you can definitely handle this. It might be 4 times longer than the book you're reading now, but it's about 20 times better than the book you're reading now, probably. It's a great experience. I've only read this book twice, but I look forward to reading it again. This is one of those books that you can read it and you can go back to a few years later, and it's almost like a whole new experience. You're always going to find something new and different in this. Tolstoy is, of course, an incredible writer. And what he does in this is what he does so well, in that he can take a huge epic story and he can see the big picture and he can show you the huge picture, huge panoramic picture of what's going on. But he can also focus on the tiniest of details. And he can create a scene that is just so realistic. The people seem like real people that you can totally relate to or at least understand. No matter that it was written in another language in another place a long time ago, it is completely relatable. It's a fascinating book, a fascinating portrait of people and what they experience in this just incredible time, with everybody's worlds being turned upside down. The scenes of both war and peace are incredibly well drawn. The characters are very interesting, particularly the two main ones that I spoke of. But a lot of the characters in this book are really, really interesting. Absolutely cannot recommend this book highly enough. It's one of those books you definitely want to read. If you're a reader and you're interested in any kind of fiction, I don't care what it is, you're going to want to read this. I don't care if you only read science fiction or you only read horror or you're just into detective novels. Put all of those things down and pick this up. It's one of those books. It's so worth your time. It really is. And though it might be a bit of a challenge here and there, you know, if I read it, you could read it. I'm no genius. It's a heck of a book. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think I did a ridiculous top 20 novels of all time video a few months ago. I think this came in at number 2. Although technically, Tolstoy wouldn't even put it there because he did not consider this a novel. He considered this something else, and he might have a point. It reads an awful lot like a novel through most of it, but in a lot of it, he will inject his own philosophy of life and what's going on to the characters in this book. The back section of this book is all basically the philosophy of this of what he thinks about this war and life in general and things like that. It's pretty deep, but not too deep. And you think you might get to that section and think, I'll just blow through this or forget it or whatever. No, it's pretty interesting. this whole thing, it's an awful great book. So I hope I've convinced you to at least give it a try. I'm pretty sure that if you just start reading this, you'll just keep reading this. It's one of those books. Yeah. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. If you haven't read it, man, you should read it. Okay, guys, that's my Sunday Penguin for today and my disorganized thoughts on War and Peace. I will catch you next time. Hopefully, I'll get a Mythos Monday up tomorrow. So I will see you then here at Stately Vaughan Manor. Bye, guys.